Thank you for joining the Symantec Premium Support VidBit. Today we're going to go through the upgrade of Symantec Data Center Security Advanced 6.5 to version 6.7. A couple things to know before you start on this upgrade. Most importantly, you want to back up your SQL database. I cannot stress this enough. There is no real easy way to recover if you do not have a backup of your database. Also, if your manager happens to run on a virtual machine, you would want to make a snapshot of that before starting, as close to when you are doing the upgrade as possible, so a minimal amount of data is lost. That being said, the first thing you want to do is extract the 6.7 MP2 ISO into a file format. You can simply do that by renaming the ISO to a .zip, and it will extract itself into the folders you see in front of you here. Okay, so we're working with DCS Server Advanced today, so that's the one we will go into. You'll notice there are three binaries here. The two we're going to concentrate on today are server.exe and console.exe. Agent.exe is, of course, what you install on your agents. Anyway, my first piece of advice is to always right-click and choose Run as Administrator. This will prevent some well-known issues from cropping up, also making sure that you have the privileges to run this on the environment before you get halfway through. Okay, the first step is to, of course, hit Next. This will launch a browser-based help page with some helpful information. It'll also have links to some common documents that are needed. You can read through that at your leisure. I'm not going to read over the recording here. Next thing you want to look at is your install directory. Currently it's set to C. That's because that's the only drive on this particular system. If you have other options, it'll give you the chance to modify that. I do strongly suggest installing to C, however, and definitely do not install to a remote or removable drive. Once you hit Next on that, you will see the install bar go across. As I do not feel like it would be kind to make you watch progress bars, I will pause the recording while these are going across. Okay, at this point we have reached our first pop-up prompt. This one is basically informing you that you'll need to reboot your server once the installation is complete. This is mandatory. It will not run the services correctly if you do not restart. We'll go ahead and hit OK on that. And I will pause again while the progress bars move. Okay, that portion has completed and we have received our second pop-up prompt. This is the most important one to pay attention to during the installation process here. If you click yes on this, the system will restart and it may or may not continue the installation process. In my experience, there are many variables that can cause this not to come back up after a restart, so I highly suggest clicking on no here. We will restart once we have finished both the server and console upgrades. This again will take some time. The overall time of this installation can range in a half hour, between a half hour and hour and a half, depending on your database size. As I'm working in a lab with no real data, this will go really quickly for me. Do not expect the same results in the real world. As you can see, this is completing and we have a Java pop-up window, or I'm sorry, command window pop-up here. This says Java OK. If this doesn't say Java OK, stop at this point and contact support. There's something wrong with the Java installation on your system, or it's not compatible. Okay, we see two windows here now. I'll go ahead and shrink that down so it's out of our way. We see the command window, obviously, and the configuration window. These should carry over from what you already have configured in the manager. If you need more advanced settings, of course, you can check that box and go through these, but this should carry over as we're doing an upgrade here. Go ahead and hit Next. If you are using a bridge, this should be check marked, but if you are aware that you're using an agent bridge and it's not check marked, please do so now and enter your credentials and information as need be. Go ahead and hit Next. This is the certificate agent certificate, manager certificate screen. If you do need an FQDN hostname for your certificate, you can check mark this box. Otherwise, it should be populated from your current install. Go ahead and hit Next. Okay, the information on this screen is very important to be aware of before you start the installation process. Here you will need to know your SA account on SQL, the login and password for that. Not common for enterprise level DBAs to let this information out or to give this away. So if you happen to be the DBA, this will be easy. If not, you may want to engage your SQL administrator or DBA, database administrator, prior to the installation process to have them standing by and ready to help out here. Once you have that information populated into the screen, go ahead and hit Next. You will get a prompt to validate that you know an event purge is mandatory as part of the upgrade process. This is important to read through, and you will need to put in your initials here to verify that you are aware this will happen. Here we have the Umc Details and the Umc Migration button. If you're using some versions of 6.5 or 6.6, you may already have UMC configured and enabled. If you do, the information should populate here. If not, go ahead and enter a password, usually the same as what you're using in the console. And if you are using UMC, you will want to migrate UMC data with the little checkmark box here. Otherwise, just go ahead and enter the passwords and hit Next. Verify all the information here is correct to the best of your knowledge. I sometimes suggest copying this out into a text document or a screenshot so you have it available for later troubleshooting. Go ahead and hit Configure. Okay, these stars will gradually turn into checkmark boxes as each step of the installation process and configuration process are completed. If you watch off to the left, you will occasionally see certificate errors. This is not important and happens commonly when you're using self-signed certificates. This is usually the longest part of the installation process, as at this point we are updating the database. I am again using a lab database with nothing else running on it, so it'll go fairly quickly for me. You should expect to spend anywhere between 15 minutes to as long as an hour and a half waiting for this to upgrade. This is really dependent on how recently your backups were done and if you're truncating your transaction logs or not. Basically, the more data it has to adjust, the longer it's going to take. This will take quite a while even on a lab environment actually, so I'm going to go ahead and pause while this completes. And as you can see now, we have a full set of green check marks indicating the installation has gone successfully. We can go ahead and click Finish at this point. It'll state the DCS management server was configured successfully. We have one last thing, and that is to go in and right-click on console.exe, choose Run as Administrator. This is much faster than the server installation, so it should only take a moment. Next, next, install. Again, the path is the same. The UMC interface takes over most of what used to be done in the console at this point in the product. We hope to roll everything into it, but for now, the console is still needed for policy modification and creating custom policies. In the near future, we will roll that functionality into the UMC so it'll all be in one console or one interface. Okay, copying new files, etc., etc. The last step is obviously to restart. Once this is all finished, before I do that, I do like to verify that things have gone as expected. You can do that easily by launching your management console and making sure that it says version 6.7.2 here. That means you have a successful installation, at least of the console, and you should be ready to restart and move on. I would like to thank you for joining me today for this semantic vidbit, and on behalf of the technical account management team, I hope you have a good day. Thank you.